You are listening to The Vocal Technologist. Spoken tech for your ears.
Hello, and welcome back. I am your host. You can call me the Vocal Technologist, and I am absolutely buzzing today.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You know how sometimes you wake up and realize the future kind of arrived while you were sleeping, but it's sort of weirdly uneven.
I know exactly what you mean.
That is the vibe we are tracking today. It's Product Thursday, and we've got a stack of things here that paint a really wild picture.
It's a fascinating mix this week. It feels like we're looking at two completely different timelines just colliding.
Right.
On one hand, you have tools that are accelerating creation to, speeds we've never seen before, like literally speaking software into existence.
Yeah. And on the other hand,
You have some of the biggest brands in the world just pumping the brakes, looking backward, and kind of retreating into the safety of the past.
Exactly. It's this massive tension. It's move fast and break things versus, wait, maybe we should just make things that feel like a warm hug from 1961. So we're going to unpack all of that. We've got apps that build themselves. Apple blurring the lines between what's an ad and what's real. Netflix having a bit of an identity crisis.
And we should definitely talk about why your shiny new AI tools might actually be getting, well, stupider.
Yes, that's a huge one. It's called AI model collapse. And if you work with these tools, you need to hear this.
You really do.
Yeah.
But let's start with the speed.
Yeah.
Because the barrier to entry for building tech has it's evaporated.
It's gone. Poof. So let's talk about Replit. They've launched this new mobile apps feature that sounds, frankly, like magic.
It's pretty close.
You type in a plain English description like, I want an app that sells vintage toaster ovens, and it builds the whole thing. It handles Stripe, it writes the code.
And it ships to the App Store in days. It's incredible. And the market knows it. Replit is reportedly seeking a $9 billion valuation.
Wow.
It just fundamentally changes the role of the creator. You don't need to know Swift anymore. You just need to know what you want.
And it's not just code. Look at Higgsfield AI. They just raised $80 million.
Right.
They are generating 4.5 million videos every single day. Their whole pitch is that you can get cinematic quality video with no cameras, no lights, no crew. It's Hollywood in a browser tab.
Yeah, and they're claiming a $200 million annual run rate, mostly from social media marketers. So the sheer volume of content is exploding.
Odd.
But here's where it gets interesting. This is the so what of it all. When you make creation instant and infinite, you introduce a new kind of risk.
Okay, is this where we talk about model collapse? Because that term sounds like something out of a sci-fi disaster movie.
It's not that far off. There was a really insightful piece on this. The basic idea is, well, AI models are voracious. They need data to train.
Right.
But as more of the internet gets filled with AI-generated content, these models start training on data that was made by other AIs.
So it's like a snake eating its own tail.
Exactly. And the data says the quality starts to rot within just 5 training cycles.
5. That's it.
That's it. And we're already seeing this happen with things like background removers and writing assistants. They aren't getting sharper. They're producing these homogenized results, weird artifacts, just worse outputs.
That is wild. So we're rushing to use these tools, but the tools themselves might be degrading because we're flooding the zone with their own output.
Which leads to this new philosophy from an article called Against Cleverness. The argument is that as AI spreads, good design shouldn't be chasing peak performance. It shouldn't be about the cleverest solution.
It should chase what?
Resilience.
Resilience. Okay, so what does a resilient design look like in an AI world?
It means designing systems that fail safely. Because AI amplifies errors. If you build a system that's fully autonomous, when it fails, and it will, it fails continually and at scale.
Okay.
The author argues we need to stop trying to make tools that pretend to be people, using I statements, using emotional tone.
Oh, I see that constantly. I'm sorry, I can't do that. I'm feeling confused. It creates this false intimacy.
Precisely. It creates overtrust. Designers make these tools sound human, so we treat them like they're thinking. The argument here is to strip that away. Make the limits visible. Don't let the tool pretend to be your friend. Let it be a tool.
Because when we confuse the two, we stop checking the work.
And if the work is already suffering from model collapse, that's a recipe for disaster.
That is a huge takeaway. Don't trick your user into thinking the bot has a soul.
Right.
Okay, let's shift gears. From the invisible back end of AI to the very visible screens in our pockets, the platform wars are heating up.
And Apple's making some interesting choices.
Yeah, let's talk about the iOS 26.3 App Store redesign.
This is a classic case of business goals just clashing with user experience.
Yeah.
Apple is testing a design that removes the blue background from sponsored search results.
Wait, so if I search for calendar, the ad looks exactly like the top organic result.
Almost exactly. There's a tiny ad label, but visually, yeah, the distinction is basically gone.
That blue background was such a clear signal. Someone paid for this slot.
It was. And removing it blurs the line. It will drive up clicks for sure.
And revenue, but it degrades trust. It makes it harder for you to know if you're seeing the best app or just the one with the biggest ad budget.
It's a subtle shift, but
Yeah.
it's part of a much broader trend.
Okay, speaking of iPhone rumors, though, we have to clear this up. The iPhone 18 Pro, there was all this panic that the dynamic island was dying.
Yes, lots of talk there. But the reliable leaks, specifically from Ross Young, have cleared it up. The dynamic island is staying. The selfie camera is staying centered.
So what was all the fuss about?
It seems to have been a mistranslation about the Face ID components, that they might get a smaller cutout or move under the display. But the island itself isn't going anywhere.
Thank goodness. I feel like we just got used to that little pill. But
Yeah.
if Apple is just tweaking, Netflix is practically undergoing a personality transplant.
Oh, yeah.
They're redesigning for 2026, and it sounds a lot like TikTok.
It does. Vertical video feeds, short-form content, they are aggressively chasing daily engagement.
It really feels like every app eventually evolves into a vertical video feed. It's like convergent evolution.
Where everything eventually becomes a crab.
Exactly. In tech, everything eventually becomes TikTok.
It's the battle for attention. Netflix knows you might watch a 2-hour movie on Friday, but you're on Instagram or TikTok for an hour every single day.
Right.
They want that daily habit.
And they're adding live voting, starting with Star Search.
Right, trying to make it an event again. Which is interesting because then you have YouTube.
Who just turned 20. Can you believe that? 20 years.
20 years. And they just unveiled a new global identity. What's interesting here is they didn't reinvent the wheel. They kept the red, white, and black.
But they made the brand system dynamic and reactive.
Exactly. It's meant to feel alive, which contrasts so sharply with what we were just talking about with big brands retreating. YouTube is leaning into the chaos of culture.
Okay, so YouTube is leaning into the future, but a lot of other companies are leaning hard into the past. This is the segment I really wanted to get into. The nostalgia wave. Why is everything suddenly looking so retro?
It's fear, mostly, or I guess a search for safety. We have reports saying brands are retreating to nostalgia because of all the political and economic uncertainty.
When the world feels chaotic, people crave the familiar.
And brands are terrified of backlash.
Yeah.
We saw what happened with Cracker Barrel and Vera Bradley when they tried to modernize too quickly.
Oh, that was rough.
It was brutal. So now you see a company like Honda, their new EV logo is this delightful throwback to their 1961 design.
I've seen that. It's really clean. It's flat, sharp. It ditches that puffy 3D look.
It signals a fresh start by looking backward, which is a really interesting strategy.
But then you have a brand like Nothing, the tech company. They went the other way. They teased this super stripped back, minimalist text logo.
And the fans hated it.
Hated it.
They called it soulless. They compared it to the Jaguar rebrand, which,
Yeah.
is not a compliment. It's a critical lesson, though. Minimalism isn't always the answer. Fans want personality. That dot matrix font was weird, but it was theirs.
When you strip that away to be clean, you just look like everyone else.
And then there's this great counterexample. Goo, the dessert brand.
Yes.
They did a rebrand that went the complete opposite direction. More tactile, realistic photography, messy chocolate.
It's not pixel perfect at all.
It's embracing imperfection as a signal of authenticity. In a world of smooth, perfect AI-generated images, showing something that looks real and sticky. That's a competitive advantage.
That connects perfectly to our next topic. We've been talking about the surface-level logos, ads, apps, but there was this fantastic piece in our stack about the invisible work of design.
This is one of those articles that I think everyone in a corporate job needs to read. It argues that the most important work in a company is often the work that leaves no trace.
The coordination, the judgment calls,
Yeah.
the preventing of chaos.
Exactly. It's keeping things on the rails. But because it doesn't look like a deliverable, it's not a Figma file or a slide deck, it gets undervalued.
But without it, everything just falls apart. And this ties into the idea of UX as a driver for the P&L.
Right.
We've got this stat here. Freshworks and SAP tied their design systems to a 28% reduction in service costs. That's huge.
It is. And it shifts the whole conversation from design as making things pretty to design as a value multiplier. If your UX is bad, it blocks revenue. It is that simple.
If a user can't figure out how to pay you, that's a direct hit to the bottom line. It's funny, we started this whole thing talking about AI building apps instantly. But this suggests the real value isn't just building the thing.
It's knowing what to build and how it works for the human on the other end.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the death of pixel perfect.
Rest in peace.
It's a total relic of the print era. This idea that a designer can control every single pixel on every single screen is a fantasy.
Of course. The web is fluid. You have foldable phones, huge monitors, smartwatches.
And now AI pins and whatever hardware Jony Ive is cooking up at OpenAI.
Right.
So designers have to let go of absolute control and focus on the system, on the intent.
This brings me to a thought that's been nagging me through this whole conversation. If AI is generating the code and AI is generating the images and the design systems are fluid, what is left for the human?
That's judgment. It's curation. And it's vibes.
Vibe.
I'm serious. Look at what's happening with establishing truth in UI. You need to design trust. You need an interface that just feels real without overwhelming people with data. That takes a human understanding of psychology.
So the machine can build the app, but the human has to build the trust.
And the personality. Which brings us to the most unexpected story in our stack this week.
Oh, I know where you're going with this. Matthew McConaughey.
Wait.
You had to do it. But seriously, this is a major signal.
It really is. He just trademarked his own voice. He trademarked his likeness, and even that phrase, all right, specifically to fight AI misuse.
He's drawing a line in the sand.
He is. And it raises a really provocative thought. In an age of Replit and Higgsfield, where you can generate literally anything,
Yeah.
the most valuable asset might just be your own likeness, your own voice, your own vibes.
That's profound. We spent all this time trying to build brands that can scale, but maybe the future is about owning the one thing that can't be scaled, your unique identity.
It's the ultimate defense against commoditization. If AI can do the average work perfectly, then the unique, the weird, and the personal, that becomes the premium.
So if you're listening, whether you're a designer or a developer, think about that. What's the invisible work you're doing that an AI can't see? And are you protecting your own? All right.
And maybe don't trust the background remover on your photos quite as much as you used to.
Good advice. We are going to wrap it up there. This has been a trip through the messy, fast, nostalgic world of product design. I'm your vocal technologist, reminding you to look for the invisible work this week.
Stay curious.
See you next time.
Spoken Tech for your ears.